started with a name that no one dared to mention, a name rarely spoken in most pulpits, a figure whose story is largely buried in ancient texts, yet whose influence, some say, is still profoundly felt in our world today. We're talking about Azazel. He's a being often confused with Lucifer or Satan, but ancient writings paint a distinct and terrifying picture of his unique role in humanity's downfall. What if one powerful spirit was primarily responsible for teaching humanity the very things that lead to our deepest corruptions? Things like warfare, vanity, and a thirst for power? That's the story of Azazel, and it's a narrative that offers a chilling perspective on the origins of evil and its enduring legacy. Get ready to uncover forbidden knowledge that might just change how you see the world's ancient past and its present struggles. Before we pull back the curtain on this forgotten angel, if you're fascinated by biblical mysteries, eager to explore hidden histories, and want to understand the spiritual forces at play in our world, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join the Bible Story Spot family. The name Azazel is one you might recognize if you're familiar with the ancient Jewish Day of Atonement rituals, where a scapegoat was sent into the wilderness for Azazel, bearing the sins of the people, Leviticus 16. But beyond this ritualistic mention, his true identity and story are, as mentioned, rarely discussed in modern religious institutions. He's a name largely forgotten, buried in what are sometimes called forbidden texts. But ancient wisdom, particularly found in the Book of Enoch, paints a much more vivid and significant picture of Azazel. He's depicted not merely as a symbol, but as a powerful spiritual being who bears immense blame for the deep corruption of early humanity. Enoch reveals him as a primary corrupter, teaching humanity practices that led the world astray. To understand Azazel's actions, we first need to understand the group he belonged to, the Watchers. The Book of Enoch tells us that these were 200 celestial beings, angels who were assigned by God to observe humanity and the earth. Their mission was to watch, to guide, but not to intervene in forbidden ways. However, Genesis chapter 6 gives us a brief yet profound glimpse into their transgression. It mentions that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves of all whom they chose. Genesis 6:2 NKJV. This short verse hints at an event of monumental significance, but the Book of Enoch elaborates on it in detail. It reveals that these watchers chose to descend to earth, captivated by the beauty of human women. They made a collective pact on Mount Hermon, vowing to carry out their forbidden desires together, fully aware that they were breaking divine law and incurring immense guilt. This was no impulsive act, but a deliberate, organized rebellion against their heavenly assignment. Their descent marked a turning point in early human history, unleashing an unprecedented wave of spiritual and physical corruption upon the earth. While the Watchers as a group engaged in various illicit teachings, such as astrology, incantations, and root cutting, Azazel had a distinct and devastating curriculum of his own. Enoch specifically names Azazel as the one who revealed forbidden knowledge to humanity. His teachings were twofold, targeting both men and women in ways that corrupted society from its core. To men, Azazel taught the forbidden arts of forging swords, shaping armor, and refining metals for war. This knowledge of weaponry, tools of destruction, introduced organized conflict and violence on an unprecedented scale, moving humanity from simple disputes to mass warfare and bloodshed. This was not about basic survival tools, but about instruments of conquest and death. To women, Azazel taught the practices of makeup and body adornment. Now, this might seem less sinister than warfare at first glance. However, the video suggests that these teachings weren't just about superficial beauty. Instead, they opened a gateway to the complete corruption of creation. By focusing on external appearance in a distorted way, these teachings introduced intense desire, competition, lust, and power-driven kingdoms. Vanity, a hunger for superficial power, and a distorted view of self and others began to infect the human heart, leading to moral decay and societal chaos. Through these seemingly distinct teachings, warfare for men and vanity for women, Azazel effectively sowed the seeds of humanity's downfall, driving the world towards the very corruption that would necessitate the Great Flood. The consequences of the Watchers' descent and Azazel's forbidden teachings were swift and catastrophic. The unholy union between these celestial beings and human women resulted in the birth of monstrous offspring known as the Nephilim. The Bible briefly mentions them in Genesis 6:4 as giants in the earth. The Book of Enoch provides more detail, describing them as hybrid beings of immense stature who were insatiable. They grew so large and consumed so much that they literally devoured everything, all the provisions of humanity and eventually humanity itself. They oppressed, consumed, and spread violence across the earth. This profound corruption, both spiritual and physical, reached a critical point. The cries of the earth itself, burdened by the violence and defilement, ascended to the heavens. This led directly to divine judgment, the Great Flood. God saw the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Genesis 6:5. The flood was not an arbitrary act, but a necessary cleansing to preserve humanity from total corruption. Following this widespread corruption and the subsequent judgment, the archangels received divine orders to deal with the rebellious watchers, and particularly with Azazel. Azazel was singled out for an exceptionally harsh punishment. He was ordered to be bound hand and foot, cast into darkness, and buried in the desert of Dudal. There he is to remain imprisoned until the day of the great and final judgment. The severity of his punishment highlights his immense culpability. As the ancient texts state, all the corruption came from Azazel. He was held responsible for initiating the widespread moral decay that led to the flood. But here's another powerful question raised by these ancient accounts. Despite Azazel's imprisonment, why do his teachings seem to persist? Why does humanity continue to struggle with the very same vices he introduced? The video suggests that our modern society's obsession with war, image, vanity, and control eerily mirrors the ancient patterns of downfall and corruption initiated by Azazel. It's as if his legacy was never truly buried with him in that desert. His teachings, like a virus, continue to influence the world through various systems, perhaps even through alchemy, secret societies, and mystery cults that have carried forward distorted knowledge. This perspective suggests that the spiritual battle against these forces didn't end with Azazel's binding. His influence subtly continued through the very patterns he established. And what about the future? The Book of Enoch reportedly contains even more chilling prophecies regarding Azazel. It reveals that he will be released for a short period in the end times before finally being cast into eternal fire as part of the ultimate judgment. This raises an intense question for us today. Is this moment drawing near? Are the current global struggles, the pervasive nature of war, vanity, and deception, signs that we are living in the final cycle before this ultimate judgment? Some have even speculated if Azazel could be the ominous angel from the abyss mentioned in the Book of Revelation, known as Abaddon or Apollyon, Revelation 9:11. This is a profound question for reflection, one that encourages us to be vigilant and discerning in these tumultuous times. Understanding Azazel's story, as revealed in the Book of Enoch and alluded to in the Bible, offers a unique and sobering perspective on the origins of evil and its enduring grip on humanity. It highlights the spiritual warfare that has been ongoing since the very beginning and points to a final culmination where all evil will ultimately be judged. What are your thoughts on Azazel's powerful and unsettling influence? Did this exploration shed new light on the origins of corruption for you? Share your insights respectfully in the comments below. If this video has opened your eyes to new biblical mysteries, please hit that like button. Share this video with someone who loves exploring ancient truths, and don't forget to subscribe to Bible Story Spot for more deep dives into God's amazing word. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey.